Most undergraduate students in high education, whether the certificate, diploma, or degree students, have difficulty in describing graph and table to complete the assignment or thesis writing. 2 tips that you will consider how the data should be presented in your writing. But before we jump into the topic, let me briefly introduce myself. Hey, those who just meeting. My name is Aben, and my patient is sharing some knowledge in construction technology, green buildings in specific and some tips in education perspective. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. And hey, at any pin during the video, check out show noted in the YouTube description below. I'll list out all of the gear, or tips, or materials I talk about, as well as some additional resources. Let's dive into the topic. Coming up. In many subject areas, you may need to refer to numbers, statistics and other data during the course of your studies. This is likely to be data collected by other people, which you will use to support your written work, but it may be data that you have collected yourself as part of your studies. Data is generally presented in the form of tables, charts and graphs, which makes it easier for readers to understand. However, it is often necessary to reproduce and refer to this type of information in words as part of a report or written assignment. If you include a graph, chart or table in your writing, you must explain very clearly what the data in it means and why it is relevant to your report or assignment. 2 tips you will consider how data should be presented within your writing, and you will examine and practice the language used to describe and refer to data in a graph. Much of the vocabulary is similar, whether you are referring to a graph, table or chart. Here we go. Tip number 1. Understanding how to present a graph. When you write a report or an assignment, it may be necessary to include some data, for example, in a graph. This data should be included within the body of your text. In this example, you are going to consider how data, such as a graph, should be presented in your writing. Guys, look at the example graph here. Can you correctly name the different parts of the graph? Anyway, this is a graph taken from a previous video. As promised, I will explain what should be written and discussed in relation to the graph. For anyone who has not watched it yet in KK channel with the title of How to Do Analysis Using Pivot Table, Graph 24 Hours Profile, you can watch it via the info card pop up on the right top in this video. So, the answer of the question. They are the caption, the legend and the axis labels. All of these 3 features are important to include if you are using graphs in your written work. The caption on a graph, table, chart or image should describe the kind of information displayed in the graph so that readers immediately understand the information being presented to them. 2. The legend gives important information about the data in the graph and helps readers to understand the data. Finally, the axis labels also give important information, which is crucial to understanding the data correctly. The caption, the legend and the axis labels must always be included when using graphs in your writing. To be noted here, guys. When writing about tables or charts, you are unlikely to need axis labels, but you must include a caption and legend. This helps readers to understand the data that you are writing about. It also helps to support the credibility of your argument or report by showing that you have a good knowledge and understanding of your subject. For the tip number 2, understanding information in a graph. In this tip, you have to examine the graph from tip number 1 in more detail. You have to consider the meaning of the data it shows. For an additional, to describe diagrams or any other type of graphs as clearly as possible, you should name each element. For example, 1. The vertical axis shows 2. The horizontal axis represents 3. This curve illustrates 4. The solid line shows 5. The shaded area describes 6. This colored segment is 4, 7. The red bar or any related elements that you think are important to talk about. Let's getting serious to an example of how to describe line graph. This type of charts converts information into points on a grid that relates to a line to represent trends, changes, or relationship between objects, numbers, dates, etc. These lines show movement over time affected by the increase or decrease in the key factors. To express the movement of the line, you should use appropriate verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, depending on the kind of action you need to show. For this, you should use the following vocabulary. For verbs, you can use rise, increase, grow, go up to, climb, boom, peak, fall, decline, decrease, drop, dip, go down, reduce, level up, remain stable, no change, remain steady, stay constant, stay, maintain the same level, crash, collapse, plunge, plummet. Meanwhile, for adjectives, you can apply sharp, rapid, huge, dramatic, substantial, considerable, significant, slight, small, minimal, massive. Finally, and adverbs, you can try to use dramatically, rapidly, hugely, massive, sharply, steeply, considerably, substantially, significantly, slightly, minimally, markedly. There is also a list of adverbs to describe the speed of a change: rapidly, quickly, swiftly, suddenly, steadily, gradually, and slowly. So, what this chart is all about. Now listen, a clear understanding of Malaysia's weather data enables designers to design buildings that benefit from the climate conditions. This example of chart provides information on dry bulb temperature. Charts are analyzed to make it easier to understand the data, and a table of raw cross-tabulation data made using the pivot table function in Excel is also provided for whose wish to make use of this data for more in-depth analysis on their own. Alright then, here we go. We're gonna talk about the line of average, maximum and minimum. For this graph, the daily average, maximum and minimum dry bulb temperature is shown in the chart. The graph shows the standard deviation is more than 1 degree centigrade from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., indicating that the afternoon hours have a higher change of temperature from day to day. While, in the hours of midnight to 7 a.m., the standard deviation of the dry bulb temperature is less than 1 degree centigrade, indicating a fairly consistent and predictable dry bulb temperature from midnight to the early morning hours. The average dry bulb temperature of the whole year, including day and night, is 28.5 degrees centigrade. For this value, you can refer to pivot table tutorial in the previous video. The average peak dry bulb temperature is just below 34 degrees centigrade between 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. While the maximum dry bulb temperature is 37 degrees centigrade at 4 p.m. The average low dry bulb temperature is 24.9 degrees centigrade at 6 a.m. in the morning. While the lowest dry bulb temperature is 23.3 degrees centigrade at 7 a.m. in the morning. So guys, this is an example how we can describe our graph. Oh yeah, if you like to practice by your own, why not you try to describe this graph by using 2 tips as I mentioned in this video. Let's describe and comment below. And hey, why not you share your chart in description below. Maybe we can discuss to describe your chart together. Final words from me: before creating charts for your writing, determine what data you're going to show and design the visuals tailored to your audience or readers. Keep them as simple as possible. Charts, graphs, and diagrams should explain themselves. Use the words and their multiple synonyms mentioned in this article to describe your graphs and help your readers understand the importance of your data. For those of you who are just joining the KK channel for the first time, all materials or documents related to this video can be downloaded via the link provided in description below. If the topics presented by KK Chanel are very helpful to you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you will be updated with the latest videos from this channel. Until we meet again. Thank you.